Yeah, please start.
Very good evening, one and all. I'm Saurabh Sandalia, in charge of academics and strategy at MyRehab Academy. Today we are here to have a learning of kind of overview of craniosacral therapy. But before that, I would like to introduce something about ourselves, especially for those who have joined newly as our membership. This program is specifically for our membership, and being a member, now you are realizing after maybe about 6 month period that how beautiful it is to be the member of MyRehab Academy, where you have access to learn a lot of free webinar, where you have access to learn, uh, where you have access to go through the 50,000 plus volumes of our e-library, and moreover that for every conference or workshop, you have assured discounts right from 10 to 50%. We are an award-winning and leading institution which has got quite prestigious award, and now our responsibility has increased a lot. Considering our responsibility for the physio fraternity, we have come out with the two innovative programs which I'll be discussing at last. So for them who it is not audible, kindly increase your gadget volume, because many of people they are able to hear me. I got a message, so I replied. So already you are knowing the rule of MyRehab Academy. It was already it was shared in the screen also. So kindly be the part of 75% time of total webinar. Otherwise, certificates won't be issued. It is totally system dependent. We cannot help. Apart from that, your certificate can only be it is possible to get only through a code. The code will be given at any point of time throughout this webinar. It could be even at midpoint or last, or maybe another 5 minutes also. So kindly be the part of that. If it is not possible later, we can't help you, because this is totally system generated. Now I would like to introduce Dr. Prem. I think Dr. Prem V has joined. And Dr. Prem, sir, have you joined?
Hello. Yeah.
Yes, Dr.
Am I
Prem.
audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, very much, sir. Dr. Prem has joined. He needs no introduction when it comes to the science of physical therapy. I have personal as well as my organization has quite a bit regard for Dr. Prem V. Thank you, sir, for accepting today's overview topic. Kindly, it's over to you, sir. Kindly start it.
Okay.
Dr.
Yeah,
Prem.
sure.
Thank you, sir.
Video launches. Video launches. Yeah, good evening all. Thanks for having me here. And the topic being craniosacral therapy. Yeah, so it will be an introduction. So where you will get an idea about what is craniosacral therapy and what are the indications and how it started and where all as a physio, where all we can apply. So that's what I'm going to give you an overall view about it. Okay, so that's what planned. So I'll share the screen now. Is that screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is it full screen now?
Yeah, it's full screen. You could reduce the size of that slide, maybe about 100%.
Okay?
A little reduce the size. I think that will.
Yeah, that's fine, sir. That's fine.
That's fine. I think. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Fine, no?
Okay. You can go to full screen, sir. You can go.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Please, please.
So it's a craniosacral therapy, the topic. So what we are going to see is what is the history of craniosacral therapy, how this started, who started it, and how it got progressed, and what is being currently practiced, and what is the relevant anatomy which is required to understand about craniosacral therapy. And then palpation, that's what is a major part of it. So it's a kind of a challenge to have a webinar on a treatment which is very hands-on, but this will give you an overview and what is the mechanisms and what are the components in it That much definitely you will get an idea at the end of the session. So it all started with Andrew Still. What he said was the cerebrospinal fluid is one of the highest known elements that are contained in the body. And unless the brain furnishes this fluid in abundance, a disabled condition of the body will remain. So Andrew Still is the one who started with the osteopathic concept. And this was his view that CSF is important. And unless until you have abundance of CSF, that means you are healthy. And the movement of the CSF in the body is considered as healthy, according to him. Further, the concept was furthered by a person known as Sutherland, who is also an osteopath. He began the investigation in this field in the second decade of the 20th century. So what he did, the Sutherland, he wanted to understand whether it's really kind of CSF or whether it is a cranial. And the controversy about the whole craniosacral therapy is whether the cranial bones move or not. So traditionally in our anatomy books, if you see during infant or pediatric, your sutures are not fused. By the time you reach adult age, your sutures are fused and there is no further movement in the cranial bones. So that's what is the traditional anatomy. And Sutherland wants to challenge it. And what he did himself, he wore a tight helmet, okay, which will not allow any movement of the cranial bones. And he asked his wife to note down what all the things he talks or what all the behavioral changes happen. So he asked the wife to note down all those behavioral changes which can happen to him when he wears the tight helmet. So what was observed is the helmet was so tight, after some period, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, he started getting more irritated, his behavior started changing, and there was a point where he was losing consciousness. And when he removed the helmet and he could feel something releasing from the head and falling and going all the way to the base of the spine, that is the sacrum. So he felt something moving, falling on the sacrum, and then he felt relieved. And this experiment on himself, he tried to mimic, he tried to do it again and again, and he found every time consistently the same kind of abnormal behavior, irritated, okay, and confused and going to the point of losing consciousness. So he came to the conclusion, yes, definitely some movement is there in the cranial bones, and when you restrict it, and that can affect your behavior, your heart rate, BP, your stress level can be altered with those restriction of the cranial bones. That's what he proposed. And further to it, the other person who started getting in was Johnny Upledger, also an osteopath. He discovered that he was assisting a spinal cord surgery, and he was assistant to the surgeon. And his job is to hold the durometer still when the neurosurgeon removes a plaque in the spinal cord, on the durometer. So what he observed is when he tried to hold the durometer still, okay, he found that the durometer was slipping every time he tried to hold with the forceps, and he was not able to keep the durometer still. And this caused, he became very curious, and he went back to the anatomy books. And what is the reason why that durometer is moving, and what is the reason for this? And that's how he started investigating. And what is the reason for the movement of the durometer? And that's how he developed a concept known as we are going to see. It's a semi-closed chamber or a semi-closed hydraulic system. That is the reason why the durometer was not still. It was keep moving up and down. So we'll see why the durometer moves and how that can affect the cranial bones, and how as a therapist we can alter those movements. So the relevant anatomy which we should know is the meninges, which covers our brain and the spinal cord, which is continuing. And then osseous structures are the bones which are attached to the meninges, and the connective tissues which are intimately related to meninges, and the CSF, which is like a kind of which flows around your brain and also your spinal cord, the CSF, and the structures which are responsible for the production, circulation, and containment of the CSF. These are the basic anatomy which we should understand to understand the craniosacral therapy. So the origin of, everybody knows the origin of the CSF. happens in your choroid plexus in the fourth ventricle, okay, and then it goes into your subarachnoid space through the lateral apertures, okay, and also it enters. So this is your, in the subarachnoid space, you can see your CSF and going down all the way to the spinal cord, which is covering, okay, and it gets absorbed in the arachnoid villi. Fine. So this secretion and absorption which happens in your fourth ventricle, and then absorption which happens in the arachnoid villi, this creates a cyclical movement of the CSF, okay, and which in turn the durometer which is covering also keeps moving. So the rate of movement according to the cycle, number of cycles which happens or the movement happens is found to be around 6 to 10 cycles per minute. So same like how we have respiratory rate, heart rate. So you got a craniosacral rhythm, which is said to be 6 to 10 cycles per minute, which happens because of this movement of the CSF, that is your production and absorption, and thereby your durometer moving. And that's the reason you got a craniosacral rhythm. And that's what is, we are trying to palpate, and we are trying to see whether it's altered and disease condition, and then we try to treat it. So there is a rhythmic synchrony of motion between the cranium and the sacrum. So you can see this is a meninges covering and your dural attachments, which happens throughout the skull, your spinal cord, and going all the way to the sacrum. And these dural attachments, you can see it has got attachments to the foramen magnum, and also it has got attachments to C2 and C3. That's your vertebral bodies, C2 and C3, and also to the sacrum, S2 to the coccyx. So it's a kind of one continuous structure. So it's not something like which is existing as a distinct entity. No, it's together. So that's the reason somebody, if you get a history like had a fall or an injury, from the bike, or slipped on the steps and had an injury of coccyx, and patient tells after some time, after 1 or 2 years, patient says, I have got headache. So most often it's because of the tension which is created, or the altered coccyx or the sacrum, whatever damage has happened, creates altered tension in your membrane system and creates a headache in the cephalic. So the reason could be most often the injury which the person has got during that fall. So you need to see the system as a whole, and it's all interlinked. Something happening at the coccyx or sacrum, it can influence the your head and neck. Same thing, something happens on the head and neck. After that, patient gets a back pain, something like that. So surely there's a possibility that there is a tension in the whole system, and you release the whatever be the origin of the injury, and you will see the other symptoms reducing. So that's a kind of connection, and the connection between the spinal durometer, which anchors at sacrum and occiput, and other restrictive osseous attachments. So you can see it's all clearly, it's not just a durometer and things, it is clearly attaching to your musculoskeletal system. And what you get the musculoskeletal pain could be because of this durometer and its attachments from your head to coccyx. So in craniosacral therapy, what we do is the bones in the cranium and the spine are used as handles to release the restrictions in the membrane system to allow the fluid to flow properly. As the Sutherland felt that when you restrict the cranial bone movement, further to that, the CSF movement is affected, because of it the patient starts getting symptoms. So on the reverse of it, if you work on the cranial bones, you can, if there is an altered movement of the cranial bones, and you can get the symmetry of movement of the cranial bones, you can reduce those symptoms and get the patients better. That's what it means when it says that bones in the cranium and spine are used as handles. So as I said, there is a continuous structure, dural membrane system, starting from your head, continues, okay, foramen magnum, covering the spinal cord, going all the way to your sacrum. So the dural system is continuous down the spine to the coccyx. The dural sleeves extend off what is known as dural tube. Attached to those sleeves is the connective tissue that then runs throughout the body with many attachments to bone, muscle, viscera, including cranium, brain, coccyx, dural sleeves. That's the reason through the treatment of your head or the cranium and the sacrum, you can reach to the other distant organs like viscera, your musculoskeletal system, you can reach. This allows the therapist to access the cranial system from any area of the body. So on the reverse, still you want to feel the rhythm, what is happening on the cranium. You can still feel in the foot, in the hand, you can feel if there is a change in the craniosacral rhythm. Either you can treat through there also, and you can feel an altered rhythm in the feet and the hand also because of these dural connections which is extending throughout. So that's once again, there's a picture which shows your occiput, dural tube, and the sacrum, and it's all one continuous structure. Okay, this again, it's a cadaveric picture, so which shows about your, your durameter. This is your spinal cord. So from posterior, it is opened up. This is your, posteriorly, that's your spinal cord, and the covering is your durameter. So if you cut open the durameter, you can see the CSF. So once again, that's your, and when you open it, that's how it looks like that. So you can see here, the durameter is open. Whatever fluid structure, what you see, that's your CSF. Okay, as we said, you can see here, this is your cranium. This is your skull bones. And it can be your frontal, it can be your temporal or occipital bone, to which this dural membrane is attached. So we feel for the movement where it is restricted, and we use these cranial bones as handles to release the tension in those bones, and thereby we make the CSF fluid move freely, and which helps to reduce the patient's symptoms. So this is known as semi-closed hydraulic system of the cerebrospinal fluid and dural membrane, upon which this concept lies. And it is continuous. You can feel the rhythm on the cranium. Also, you can feel the rhythm in your sacrum. So if this is altered, you will see the fluid not moving, or it moves more on the cranium or moves more on the sacrum. You can feel it. And there are techniques through which you can enhance this fluid movement wherever it is restricted or reduced. So palpation, this is the whole kind of what you say, the whole approach depends on palpation. It's the art of using touch to examine the body. And the touch is such that as a physio, we are not used to this touch. We are always used to do a kind of myofascial release, kind of soft tissue releases, where we use our elbows, we use our finger tips, knuckles, we use it, quite a kind of hard kind of pressure which we use it. But in case, if we see this palpation, it's very soft, very light. They say it should be 5 grams. 5 grams means something like 25 paise coin. If you put it in your hand, what you will feel. So that's a kind of light touch which is used. So as a physio, I feel we are not used to do this kind of touch. We are used to do a little more like active movement or passive movement, passive physiological, passive accessory. It involves lots of 5 kgs, 8 kgs, 10 kgs of force we use it. But here it's 5 grams. So it's a kind of very light touch, and it needs quite amount of practice to get the feel of this rhythm, the feel of the cranial bones. I will not tell like, no, you put your hand, you will get it. No, it takes time. Okay. And, but if you practice it and during the whatever training period, definitely you get the rhythm. Initially, it might look like, what is this? This all looks like nonsense. Yeah, I also felt same thing. This is nonsense and no, something they are blabbering. But as you practice, as you feel on several people, definitely the rhythm exists, and you can see the alterations. And when we treat, you can see the changes in the patient. So that will be your proof that the therapy is working. So how do you know this therapy is working? There are something known as common signs of release, or how you know that patient got better. So under your hand, wherever you place, you might feel softening, lengthening of the soft tissues. You might feel an increased fluid flow or increased energy flow. You might feel a heat. Okay, you feel there might be some heat, which indicates that there is some kind of stiffness or a restriction which gets released. And there is something known as therapeutic pulse. So this maybe as a physio, if we palpate more often your suboccipital region, you will feel lots of pulse, and you wait for this, what they call it as therapeutic pulse. this pulse will reduce. And as the pulse reduces, the patient also will start feeling better. So these are some of the indications that whatever therapy you are giving under your hand, you'll be feeling these changes. And also patient might take a deep breath or a sigh, again, which indicates that a patient is having some releases or having some stiffness or release is happening. What are the contraindications when we don't do? In case of acute stroke, in case of hydrocephalus, any acute inflammatory disease and unstable cardiorespiratory parameters, we don't do it. Also, if the person is very old, very fragile patient, and right, so use your common sense and whether it's really required. If not, again, can be a contraindication. So what are the parts? What is the procedure? What are the parts? So usually they call it as 10-step protocol. Okay. So in CST, they teach like, level 1 and level 2, there are 2 levels. So initial level is, they call it as 10-step protocol, which they teach, which involves palpating or treating different parts of our body. They start with the pelvic area, diaphragm, then inlet of the upper thoracic cavity, muscles around the thyroid. Then they move on to the cranial bones, which involves your frontal, parietal, occipital, temporal, sphenoid bones, where we feel the symmetry, where we feel the quality of movement, where we feel the rate of movement. Okay, and then see if it's altered, and accordingly, we give the corrections, and you can see the changes happening. And then sacrum. Then there is something known as dural tube rock, which involves both cranium and sacrum. We combine it together and see the restriction and give the treatment to release it. And there are something known as still points, which are quite effective to give a very deep sense of relaxation and to reset CS of secretion and absorption. That's what it is claimed. And as I said, you got various techniques. So when you use frontal bones, it's known as frontal lift, where we use our hands so to treat the frontal. And then when we use our hands here, that's your parietal, this is your temporal, and this is your occipital. So you got a different techniques for each thing. Hand positions are different, the palpation are different. Okay, so that's your parietal, okay, where we put our hands and try to release it. That's your occiput. Okay, most often as a physio, we are quite familiar with occiput release, because we got various techniques in case of either soft tissue release or Mulligan or Maitland. Okay, so a lot of things which we do at the suboccipital area. Okay, and there are evidences, anatomical, microscopic evidences that between the sutures, it's not something, nothing is happening. Okay, between the sutures, they have shown there are vascular, there are nervous, nerve supply, and there are collagen, elastin fibers which is present between the sutures. So as it's believed, it is fused. No, it's not really, they have shown evidences that there is a vascular supply, there are elastic, and collagens which is present between the sutures, which could be the reason why the cranial bones move, and also a nerve supply, and also the CSF movement and the durameter, and in turn connecting to your cranial bones, which causes these movements. So these are some of the images which they have captured. And they start with, as I said, they start with the pelvic release, diaphragm release, thoracic inlet, hyoid, okay, and then suboccipital. So if you see, these are not randomly chosen areas. So this is an area of restriction. It's called as area of restriction, where when the thorax goes into abdomen, or abdomen moves to thigh, and you can see a thick fascia which happens. And this is the area most often you'll have restriction or stiffness. You won't find stiffness in the middle area. It's the area where you can see one area changes to other. There is a thick fascia, and that's where there will be tension. And there is a what is a biological reason why specifically you got this pelvic release, your diaphragm release, your thoracic inlet release. So there is a anatomical reason. It's not just like that it is done. And also a hyoid bone, which has got almost all the, your neck and your jaw muscles gets attached. So it's a kind of very crucial juncture. And patient with the TMJ, patient with chronic neck pain, thoracic pain, if you do that, it really works. And as I said, they put one hand posteriorly, one hand anteriorly, and they treat the pelvic diaphragm. They call it as pelvic diaphragm. This is your normal diaphragm. This is thoracic inlet. Okay, where again it's the area of tension. So I'm just showing you the kind of areas where it is done. This is the hyoid bone release. Occiput, this is quite, as a physio, we are quite familiar with this. As I said, myofascial release or Maitland or Mulligan. Okay, so we use lots of suboccipital techniques to release the suboccipital muscles. So you can see there is an overlap there. It's not something like we are unfamiliar with this, particularly this technique, and which we commonly use as a physio. And there is an anatomical reason why headaches and also the chronic neck pain and how it can really influence. And also very important on C1 and C2, which most often headaches, we treat C1 and C2, and we find lots of relief in the patient. And there is an attachment which is there. There is an anatomical relation between your neck muscles, suboccipital muscles, and the dura mater. And they found that the anatomical connection is real. So there is a connection between rectus capitis posterior minor muscle and dura mater, and it is published in Spine. It's quite fine. So you can see here. So this is your atlas, this bone. This is your occiput, and this is your rectus capitis posterior minor, which attaches to your spine of your atlas. Okay, this muscle has got a direct attachment through posterior occipital membrane. This is a posterior occipital membrane, and which attaches to dura mater. So basically, you can have tension which is happening in the rectus capitis posterior minor, can create tension in the dura mater and can cause altered kind of CSF or movement of your fluid along the spine. So direct you got attachment of the muscle to the dura mater. So this is again one more picture which shows the attachment between the dura mater and the rectus capitis posterior minor muscle. And that's the reason very kind of, there are 4 or 5 techniques in CST in occipital area, which addresses your C2, C1 and occiput, and which definitely I think addresses the dura mater and helps to reduce the tension. So this is again the picture from the same article. Okay, so this is your occiput, this is your atlas, and this is a rectus capitis posterior minor, and this is your dura mater, and you got a connections. These black arrows are the one which shows there is a connection between your rectus capitis muscle and your dura mater, which can cause a traction, and it can cause changes in the dura mater and tension in the system. So there is an effect of occipital traction. So if you apply some amount of traction here in the occiput, you can all the way create tension in your sacrum. Same way, if you can create a tension in the sacrum, it can again create tension on your occiput, because it's a continuous system. So there are techniques where we release the sacrum. There are 3-4 techniques which we use to release the sacrum. And also there is something known as dural tube rock, which is quite wonderful, where we connect both the cranium and the sacrum and then see where is the tension or where the movement is less, and we release it and we enhance those movement either in the sacrum or the cranium. So that's why the name comes craniosacral therapy. And also there are still point induction, which is quite effective. It provides a very deep, they believe that it resets the rhythm, the whole rhythm. The person is having abnormal rhythm, you do the still point, and then you can see the change happening after some, once you use this still point, where we it's believed that it causes compression of fourth ventricle, and through which you can reset the origin or secretion of CSF, and thereby you can bring back the craniosacral rhythm into normal. So that's what is considered as using a still point. And there are some evidences which everybody can look for it. This is a study which is done on chronic neck pain. So it's done on 54 patients, I think 27 patients in each group. One group with CST weekly once, and then other group with light touch, which is a sham treatment, which mimics like CST, but just putting the hand on that area. I think weekly once, and then it was 8 weeks it was done. Also, after 20 weeks, the outcome was taken, and they found that almost there is a 78% relief in neck NDA, neck disability index, and the pain scores 78% compared to a sham group. So found to be effective with CST in chronic neck pain. So what they said, the possible mechanisms could be, there is the fascia which has got low threshold mechanoreceptors, which get stimulated with this gentle kind of releases, and that reduces the tone of intrafacial muscle cells and reducing the muscle tension, and also it increases the parasympathetic nervous system and vagal tone, thereby producing a deep sense of relaxation. Also, it reduces the pain, and that's what they have seen in this chronic neck pain patients. Also, for the headache, so this they used headache impact questionnaire, and then they have treated patients for I think 1 month, immediately and after 1 month, and again they found a significant difference between the CST group and the other group. And there's another study which is done on craniosacral therapy on anxiety, depression, and quality of life in patients with fibromyalgia. So this is quite a long-term study. They have done the outcome up to 6 months and 1 year, and the treatment was given once a week for 25 weeks. And they found a significant improvement in anxiety, pain, sleep quality, depression, and quality of life. So what they believed it, this kind of hand placement and the soft touch, and which can kind of very gentle soft tissue release. That's what they believe. It's a kind of soft tissue release, very, very gentle and light, and it releases your endorphins and serotonin, and which gives that kind of pain relief, and also the patient's sleep was better. The quality of sleep was better, because in fibromyalgia, the serotonin is not secreted, it's reduced, and they believe that because of this treatment, the serotonin and your endorphins gets better, and that's how your mood gets better. Because these fibromyalgia patients have high level of depression, and they found the patient feeling better, good, and the quality of sleep getting better. And there's again other study which is done on again fibromyalgia and heart rate variability. So what is the heart rate variability? Heart rate variability is the one which through ECG they do it, RR interval, and they see whether there is a balance between sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. It tells about the balance. So fibromyalgia, you will have most often sympathetic overreactivity, and parasympathetic will be reduced. So through this, they found that there is a better heart rate variability, or better balance happening between sympathetic and parasympathetic. And this is again one more study which was done using heart rate variability. Again, they found that a patient who had imbalanced autonomic nervous system, after doing a craniosacral therapy, they found that nervous system comes into balance, or your sympathetic activity reduces, and the person feeling better. And this is a recent study which is published in 2020. Everybody can go back and read also in body work and movement therapy. So here they try to record whether these rhythmic motions, whether it really exists, this craniosacral rhythm. So they try to measure. If you see in our body, there are normally what we feel is our cardiovascular system. That's your heartbeat, okay, which pulses. You can feel it in the head. You can feel it in the feet. Okay, that is one movement which is happening. And the other one is the respiratory system, which moves, and because of which you can feel the movement happening in your head and the hands and the legs. These two things are very much familiar. The question here comes whether the craniosacral rhythm exists or not. So in this study, they try to record these three different rhythms, and they found that that third rhythm exists, and they used some sensors in the mastoid area. They placed it, and they try to delineate between these three, and you can see so using the breath are the ones which is kind of this is a kind of squares, and which shows it's a breath or the respiratory system rhythm, and your triangle is your heart, and your dots, that's your craniosacral rhythm. So this is one direct study where it says, yes, there is a rhythm which is existing apart from your respiratory system and your cardiovascular system. There is a third rhythm which exists. So this is one of the evidence that this craniosacral rhythm exists. So to summarize, what we have seen is, we have started with the history. It all started with Andrew Still, who is the founder of osteopath, and he believed that CSF need to be in abundance in the body for a person to be healthy. And further to that is a Sutherland, who does with the tight helmet and found whether it is really cranial bones are moving. And whenever he felt very uncomfortable losing consciousness, when he removed the helmet, he felt something falling on the sacrum. It's nothing but your CSF, which was not moving or restricted or constricted. And he found relief after that. Further, it was further by Johnny Upledger, who developed this 10-step protocol, and that's how it came. And the basic thing is your semi-closed hydraulic system. Because of the secretion and absorption of your CSF, there is a cyclical movement happening, 6 to 10 cycles per minute, and which cause movement of dura mater, and in turn, which is attaching to your cranial bones and your sacrum. You can feel the movement when there is a restriction, injury, trauma, any stress, any tension. You can see variation happening to the right and left, and you can use those cranial bones as handles to release those bones, and thereby we create, we bring about a kind of homeostasis in the system. And we have seen there are various techniques which involves your different diaphragms, pelvic, thoracic inlet, diaphragm, hyoid, and your cranial bones, sacrum. These are the various techniques, and we have seen evidences which has shown in chronic neck pain, in headaches, and also effects on heart rate variability, autonomic nervous system, and then we saw that the recent evidence on the third rhythm, which is a craniosacral rhythm which exists. Thank you. So any questions? Welcome.
Participants, you have any question? Please ask. Participant, any question? Anyone?
No, not much question. Actually, very short class.
So I wanted to know the article like that CSTN for chronic neck pain, which was the journal.
Sir, there is a question that does craniosacral therapy help in migraine?
Sir has to unmute actually. Let's say to unmute.
Yeah. Are you able to hear, sir?
Yeah. Able to hear.
So,
as we saw that study on, so this is a craniosacral, on chronic neck pain.
Okay.
So as we saw that article on migraine. Okay. So definitely headaches. Some evidence is there, right? And some evidence is there, no doubt.
Okay.
It has an effect.
Okay. Do you like how to feel the craniosacral rhythm?
Yeah, as I said, it needs some practice. So it's very difficult. Okay, because when we do the practice itself, it takes maybe 2 days at least. Morning to evening, we do different palpation methods, and then they go step by step how to feel your heart rate, your respiratory rate, then what is the cranial rhythm. It takes at least 2 days to feel it, right? So yeah, this is what it is. To tell that at least it takes 2 days. So that's what it needs some time. So because through webinar, I think it's not possible to demonstrate. Because if I tell also, you will feel like, okay, this is nothing. Okay, because it takes when we attend really the class itself, you feel like, okay, this is nothing is happening. Fine. So it has some steps to go on to understand the cardiovascular, respiratory, then craniosacral. Yeah.
Okay. So anybody asking?
Sorry, any one demonstration can we see?
Yeah, I'll tell. Okay, so everybody is okay, then we can try. Okay, so I'm not going to tell, you are going to feel it. Okay, if I tell, and if you say, if you tell I feel it also, I won't believe. Okay, fine. So I'll just try. Okay, we can just see. So what I'll suggest is everybody, just feel your pulse. Feel your pulse, 3 fingers, just feel the pulse. Can everybody feel the pulse?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you will be using lots of pressure, right, to feel the pulse, correct?
Yeah.
Fine. So what I'll suggest now is you reduce the pressure as minimum as possible. With a less, just see with how much minimal pressure you can still feel the pulse. With a minimal, how much pressure you can feel a pulse. How light you can be, but still you can feel the pulse. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the amount of kind of pressure or a force which you need to use when you try to feel it. Okay, everybody got some sense of it? So your touch should be so light, but still you should feel the pulse. Is that okay?
Yes,
fine?
sir.
You got that touch?
Yes,
Okay, so what I'll suggest now is just place the finger pads, whatever you felt, finger pads, just place it here. Okay, maybe this will be your parietal most often. Okay, and just rest your hand, rest your elbows on the table. Fine, just place it. Just close your eyes. With that light touch, see whether you can feel anything under your hand. Very light.
Participants, kindly mute yourself. Others will get disturbed.
The hand touch is very light, and just see whether you can feel underneath your hand anything, whatever you feel. Just put your hand, just see whether you can feel anything. Keep your hands as light as possible, like a feather touch, and see whether you can feel. Yeah, any comments? Anybody felt anything?
Someone is telling that it's kind of pulse. Someone is telling like his bone is expanding.
Yeah. So something you could feel, right? Fine. So
yes, sir.
Something you can feel. Yeah, something you can feel, right? It's not nothing is happening, right? So something you can feel.
Yes, it's about.
Yes.
It's about breathing in my.
Yes.
Just about my diaphragm in up and down movement. I feel movement in my vibe.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Good. See, what you got is correct only. So what I'll suggest now, since you felt like it could be a respiratory movement, what I'll suggest now, just hold your breath. Feel the same thing. Don't breathe. Just hold your breath for a few seconds and see whether that movement happens or not.
Okay, sir.
Same light touch. Hold your breath. Does that movement exist?
Yes.
Okay. So almost you are reaching close to that. Fine. So you can see that mainly it's the respiratory one which can cause this movement, and you hold the breath and feel it. Most often it should be the other rhythm. So which is nothing but your craniosacral rhythm, which is happening because of your CS of circulation and the movement of the cranial bones. That's what you feel with that rhythm. And it's really good if you can get it so fast. I didn't believe that I can do this in webinar. Fine. Usually in-person class, there are still more steps where we try to feel different things, coins, 5 grams, and then we try to touch and feel it. Then you can start feeling it. Okay. But I was not sure whether I can do it in webinar. But anyhow, good. You guys can feel something apart from when you stop the respiration and feel some movement. That's nothing but your craniosacral rhythm. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. Actually, I am practicing from 2 years in CST.
Okay. Sure.
But I want to know that about any course in full detail in techniques of CST.
Repeat again. Any?
Sir, I want to know that about any course of techniques in CST.
Okay. Yeah, that's what. See, the standard courses are run by Upledger Institute. You can check in the website. It's an Upledger Institute which runs the courses. Sorry?
Upledger Institute.
Yeah, Pleasure Institute. There is an Indian branch also. You can check their website, and any courses are there, they usually put it there. Okay, or you can contact them through the mail, must be there. Okay, and they will respond.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the question. So same way we feel on the sacrum. As I said, there are steps which involves, and it's a whole lot of anatomy. It's not something really like we tell something from the sky or wind. No, it's purely anatomy. Lots of anatomy. How we speak about biomechanics of the shoulder and the knee. Same way they speak about biomechanics of the frontal bone moving, parietal bone moving, flexion, extension, side bending, rotation, then temporal bone moving, then sphenoid bone, which is in the center of it, which goes for a dysfunction. So it's a really interesting. I have seen many patients, where patient has got a neck pain, doesn't get relieved with any kind of techniques, and right. And when I do the CST, there's lots of relief and lots of kind of good results. Same way on fibromyalgia, I use it extensively in fibromyalgia, because fibromyalgia is one condition where the patient is very sensitive. You can't do a myofascial release. You can't do any kind of vigorous technique. They will get worse because of central sensitization. And these kind of fibromyalgia patients needs very light touch, very kind of no provocation at all. And they have lots of sleep disturbance and anxiety and depression. And you use this approach, it gives a miraculous result, and patient feels better. They sleep better. That's the main thing what I have seen. They sleep better and they come back for the therapy again and again. It's not like you have to request the patient, no, you come for next treatment. No. Once you start putting your hand on the patient, okay, there is a human touch, which itself has a therapeutic effect. Along with this, it's kind of learned touch. This touch is not something just we put our hand and then we sleep and the patient sleeps. No, it's a learned touch. There is biomechanics. There is some changes happening under the hand, which we are conscious enough, and we can pick up those restrictions, which is very subtle and gentle, and you will find there is a big relief happening with a very light touch. And when we treat the patients from outside, anybody watches us, they will look like nothing is happening. But when the patient comes out of the bed, they will tell 101 things which happened, which happened during the session. So that's, I feel it's quite powerful. And yeah, as I said, the chronic pain patients, fibromyalgia, good chronic neck pain, it's really to have a good tool to treat our patients.
Sir.
Yeah.
You asked about thoracic inlet patterns.
Yeah.
Can you show that again, that slide? Or how to palpate it?
Yeah, that's what. See, as I said, it's all anatomical region. As I said, see, this will be a thoracic inlet. So this is a thickened fascia there where your head and thorax comes. So we put our hands here. And as I said, it involves very light touch. Okay. And palpation, hand position, right? And what you feel and all needs amount of kind of practice and training. So as I said, it requires some amount of what you feel under your hand.
Yes.
What is abnormal, right? When to stop the treatment. So all these things requires a kind of kind of period of training. But this is the area of thoracic inlet. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So I want to ask. Hello.
Yeah.
So I want to ask how long the result lasts.
Yeah, that's what. If you see most of the treatment sessions, whatever evidence is there, they give weekly ones. Whatever treatment sessions, at least 8 to 10 sessions. Then after that, what you say, it depends which kind of patients you are talking about. Fine. If the patient has got some, a clear musculoskeletal component, definitely they get the relief and it remains. Suppose the patient has got psychological component, patient has got some social, some occupational, right? So we are not going to solve everything with this. So you need to see the patient as a whole. If you ask with a myofascial release or a taping or dry needling, I'll solve all the issues of the patient. That's not true. So you see the patient as a whole. If you ask that question, whether the patient how long the relief will be there, all these factors plays a role. We need to accept it. And you can't say, I have got one treatment and one technique which will solve all the problems when you talk about the pain management. Okay, keep it in mind. But otherwise, as I said, 8 to 10 sessions is good enough to give a good relief for the patient, and it works. It works within that 8 to 10 sessions. If not, we are wasting our time and the patient time.
Sir, what is the abnormal feeling in thoracic inlet?
Sorry?
What is the abnormal feeling in thoracic inlet?
That's what. So it might be moving. One side will be moving more, one side moving less. There will be
Yes.
asymmetrical movement, or there won't be any movement at all. So that's what we try to enhance the movement there because of the restriction.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, any book you can suggest? Any good book for craniosacral therapy?
See,
There
that's
is a
what.
question.
You just put craniosacral therapy. There is a by Johnny Upledger. So you will get in almost every place you get it. I think soft copy also. I think it's, I don't know. It should be there. And hard copy also it's available by Johnny Upledger. So this Johnny Upledger is the one who runs this craniosacral therapy courses all over the world. So you can check in the website. You get all the articles, whatever I shared. Much more articles are there. You can, there is a in the Barrel Institute or Upledger Institute website. If you go, there is research articles, case report, case series, whatever evidence is there, whatever I shown the 2020 article, everything is there. You can just go back and read on it, and then you will get an idea. But definitely, as I said, it needs lots of palpation, lots of hands-on technique, and that's where the whole thing is there.
Okay, I think, yeah, that was the main question. Like they wanted to know about the book.
Yeah.
So sir has told about the book, and fine. It was wonderful interaction, sir. It was though it was short, and then these all are the hands-on technique, and without that we are not going to learn anything.
Yeah.
So the overview what we have presented, that has definitely increased the curiosity among our participants, and I don't know when, but let us have some physical workshop also when the pandemic goes completely away. So it was a wonderful presentation and interaction. See you, sir.
Thanks, Saurav, for
Thank you so much, sir.
And thanks for all the organizers from MyRehab Academy for inviting me, for giving the opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks
for accepting
everyone
the
for the
invitation.
questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you, sir.
Yeah, see you.
Okay.
Yeah, Dr. Saurav, please go ahead.
Yeah, dear participants, it's the time of the code. And then before I give you the code, I would like to introduce that there are two innovative things what I was talking about. Though it's there since quite some time, I think about 15 days it is running. But there is one is the classroom concept, and another is our new project called MyRehab Care. Those who are from India, our responsibility, as I told you, like our responsibility has increased a lot. And then we have thought, to provide a platform which could help you not only in learning, even